Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're breaking down the rapid escalation of the US-Iran conflict, and more importantly, how these global shockwaves are already hitting your wallet. The geopolitical map is shifting at lightning speed, so let's get right into the facts on the ground. Okay, let's start with a number you are probably seeing front and center at your local pop. $4. That's the new national average for a gallon of regular gas here in the US. Now, you might be wondering, how exactly does a localized conflict in the Middle East hike up the price of your daily commute literally overnight? Well, that is exactly what we're going to unpack today.
To make sense of it all, here's our agenda for today. First, the escalating US-Iran war. Second, targeting the choke point. Third, the global economic shock. And finally, a look beyond the battlefield.
Section 1. Escalating US-Iran war. The conflict expands. So the situation has deteriorated incredibly fast. This whole thing originally kicked off back in February 2026 with targeted US-Israeli strikes. By June, there was a real glimmer of hope. We had an interim peace deal designed to permanently end the fighting, but unfortunately, that hopeful ceasefire has completely crumbled. We're now looking at a 9th consecutive night of military strikes. It's a textbook example of how a region can step by step rapidly inch closer to an all-out war.
Driving a lot of the current political rhetoric and military response is a very heavy human toll. 17. That is the number of U.S. service members who've been killed since this war began in February. And this actually includes a recent tragedy over the weekend in northern Iraq, where a service member was killed during a controlled detonation of unexploded ordnance on a downed Iranian attack drone. This comes right on the heels of 2 other military personnel killed in an Iranian attack on a Jordanian airbase.
If we look objectively at the rhetoric from both sides right now, leaders are aggressively anchoring their public statements in themes of retaliation and consequence. U.S. President Donald Trump stated that the new strikes against Iran are, quote, in honor of the dead U.S. service members. On the flip side, Iranian Supreme Leader Mujtaba Khamenei warned of unforgettable lessons if the U.S. keeps attacking. Neither side is backing down, and this firm public posturing is translating directly into sustained military action.
The truly crucial point here is that the battlefield is actively expanding. The U.S. military is hitting underground missile bases, air defense sites, and drone launch facilities deep inside northwestern and southern Iran, specifically targeting provinces like Khuzestan, Hormozgan, and Sistan and Baluchistan. In direct response to this, Iran is lashing out at neighboring Gulf states. They're targeting Kuwait and notably Bahrain, which is a huge deal because that serves as the home of the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet. The conflict is simply no longer contained. It's spilling over borders and threatening regional stability.
Section 2. Targeting choke points. Strait of Hormuz. Whoever controls this tiny stretch of water literally has immense leverage over the entire global energy supply. The Strait of Hormuz is just 21 miles wide, yet it is arguably the most important maritime choke point in the world for oil. Because of the surrounding violence and this constant threat of attack, commercial shipping traffic through this narrow passage has largely stalled. It's effectively choking off a vital artery of global commerce.
Naturally, both sides are attempting to break the stalemate. The U.S. Energy Secretary recently claimed the primary military mission has explicitly shifted toward ensuring oil can move through the strait. To force Tehran's hand, the U.S. reimposed a naval blockade on Iranian ports, redirecting 6 ships and disabling 1. Plus, the U.S. has issued stark threats to target civilian infrastructure, things like Iranian power stations and bridges, to compel them to loosen their grip on the waterway.
Section 3. Global economic shock, impact on energy.
The market reaction to this was immediate and severe. Driven by sheer panic, Brent crude oil spiked by 2.72% right at the opening bell for Asian markets. Prices climbed from $88.10 to completely cross the $90 threshold, resting at $90.50 a barrel. This sudden financial jump is directly correlated to the physical violence and the tightening blockade in the Strait of Hormuz.
Which brings us right back to you, because this foreign conflict is actively fueling a domestic energy crisis. Remember that $4 gallon of gas we talked about at the very beginning of this explainer? That metric is putting immense, undeniable pressure on everyday voters' wallets. And the timing couldn't be more critical as we approach the U.S. midterm elections this fall. The geopolitical shockwaves happening halfway across the world have landed squarely in local neighborhoods and household budgets.
Section 4. Beyond the battlefield. Other global news.
Shifting gears over to New Jersey,
the 2026 World Cup came to a highly dramatic close. Spain captured their second Men's World Cup title with a 1-0 extra-time victory over Argentina, all thanks to a late goal by Ferran Torres. But the aftermath was absolute chaos. The Argentine team instigated a shameful post-match brawl that resulted in red cards for Enzo Fernandez and Leandro Paredes. On top of that, as U.S. President Donald Trump and the FIFA president took the field for the trophy presentation, they were met with a remarkably loud chorus of boos from a very hostile crowd.
Meanwhile, in New York, a fascinating legal and political situation is unfolding. Mayor Zohar Mamdani is publicly exploring whether local laws would allow his administration to arrest Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu during an expected United Nations visit this September. Mamdani is pointing to the International Criminal Court arrest warrant issued for Netanyahu for alleged war crimes. Now, this local maneuver clashes directly with the federal stance. Figures like Marco Rubio and Donald Trump heavily oppose the ICC's jurisdiction. Netanyahu himself dismissed the threat, saying the mayor is siding with terror actors.
On a much lighter note, let's look at a truly staggering number: $264 million. That represents the absolutely massive global opening weekend box office haul for Christopher Nolan's newest film, The Odyssey. It is completely storming theaters worldwide and dominating the entertainment landscape. But to wrap up our explainer today and bring it all back to our main story, we have to look at the facts we've laid out. With the June interim deal totally crumbled, the strikes expanding into neighboring Gulf states, and the Strait of Hormuz essentially stalled out, we're left with a massive question. Have we passed the point of no return? Is an all-out war now unavoidable? Thank you for joining me to explore the data behind these headlines.